So we are surrounded here by change of all kinds. And the primary change is within the waters, especially, that we celebrate. You may not know that Kaelepulu stream, which was the major connection between saltwater and freshwater, it connected all the way from Buzz's Steakhouse over here to the marsh. And Kaelepulu stream today is completely disconnected from the marsh. As we go across the bridge right there, a bridge that was poured in 1950, that bridge essentially serves no purpose. I mean, you could fill the water that's in there, you could fill that all up, and there is no flow. But if we go back to the time when the Hawaiians first arrived, how did they come to understand about this ahupua'a? Well, in their canoes, they sailed all the way on Kaelepulu, and their destination was right here in the marsh. And these people that I interviewed, who were born in the 20s and the 30s, they were telling me about fish like mullet that were 3 feet long, and they could regularly count on that for their family's dinner at night. And I had to scratch my head and look a little harder and try to figure out how in the world that could ever have been possible. But boy, for them, that was reality.
There's still mullet in here. These black sheep I was battling in here. I see them jumping.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, great. 3 feet long?
No, not 3 feet. Maybe about they still come back to spawn because it's fresh water.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have seen some little ones, little fingerling size. But I was fascinated when I've gone through the records of Kawainui Ranch to be able to find a lease that was given to a fisher lady. It was about 1910, and she had a special lease to be able to allow her, by herself, only her, to fish in a particular place. And for about, at that time, it was about $20 for the whole year. She could fish to her heart's content. And right here over the marsh, there was another lease, which I found fascinating. It was a bird hunter. And he was able to have exclusive hunting rights for the birds that came on the marsh. You might wonder when this canal was built. That was beginning about 1935. It was before the war. And we might ask, why did they want an additional canal, a man-made outlet into the ocean? Well, it was primarily for the same reason that we wished we could have had one on New Year's Day in 1988. Some of you were here. My wife and I were tucked up in Maunawili in our home, and wow, we had 20 inches in 14 hours, and then the days following we came over here and we saw the disaster, and we couldn't go on many of the streets. It's primarily for flood control. And I guess the Hawaiians never had to be worried about that. Their flood control was, well, we just don't have to build where it's going to be dangerous for us. When we were doing our archaeological work up in Maunawili in connection with the golf course, which dominates up there, one of the things that was surprising was we couldn't find houses, the holly for the Hawaiians. And we were working over more than 600 acres, and we just didn't find the holly. There were some, but we got the general impression that the Hawaiians were gardening in Maunawili, and they were living down near the water. And that makes a great deal of sense. They were able to move from one area to another. I mean, you can easily walk within an hour at the edge of the marsh. You can, in an hour, get up into Maunawili by the Queen's Retreat, and you would be able to go to your garden. And there was this mobility, this emphasis on mobility, which seems to have been a very important part of the Hawaiian experience here. And speaking about mobility, let me talk about fish, because if you were to dig in the layer of peat and sedimentation and erosion, if you were to dig on that floating mat which is out there now, and it's about 15 feet deep, underneath all of that, say about 20 feet down, you'd be able to come across marine sedimentation. And it just confirms what the scientists have told us about Kailua being built on a sand accretion bar. If we were to go back 3,000 years before the Hawaiians ever got here, we would have been able to see something very similar to what is in Kailua Bay. About 5 to 6 feet of water rolling right over the top of Kailua, and the water being able to reach as far inland as the light going in at Auloa Road in Maunawili. Some of my archaeologist friends have done some of this excavating down in that sedimentation, and they had to hold back all of this soft soil, basically sand, big sheets of plywood, making it possible for them to look down in there, and they were at a depth of about 20 feet. And they found all kinds of coral and bivalves and the remains of sharks. And that extends all the way over to where the bird ponds now are. So imagine the Hawaiians' delight in being able to cruise their way on Kaelepulu stream in their little crafts, their canoes, and being able to park over at Ulupo, for example. Something that you and I can't comprehend at all. But as we continue to work at Ulupo and Napahaku, we are finding these messages that reinforce the fact that Kailua is really two waters, and the salt water, which was dominant to the east of us, was being able to connect to the freshwater, which was dominant, and it was right over here in what we call the marsh. I am just so impressed by the fact that the converging of these two waters has been part of this historical conflict which has been taking place and continues to this very day.